Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and thank you so much for taking the time to tune in. It means a lot. I noticed on my channel that I made it to over 4,000 subscribers, and I did it in, I think it was 8 weeks. So it was a massive jump, and I don't know how the algorithm works. I don't know who runs the show. I've got feelings, I've got suspicions. Of course, it's just a computer program, but I don't really understand how it works. All I know is I just have something inside of me that I choose to express. And sometimes people, not all the time, but sometimes people out there resonate with me, and that makes me feel seen, and it doesn't make me feel so alone. And ultimately, humans, we're a crazy odd bunch, but we are socially inclined. We're social species. Putting someone in isolation, solitary confinement is a form of torture. And I'm all too aware of how that works in my own life. So today I don't really have a topic. I'm just going to kind of vent and have a talk. Sometimes it's like I get a little bit of anxiety because there is just so much inside of me that I feel like if I was like open my mouth, all of this light would just explode out of me, and kind of like a current of electricity, and it circulates through my body. Sometimes I feel very plugged in to myself, and like you, a lot of the time I feel completely disconnected from myself, and I feel like I'm at rock bottom. And recently have gone through some therapy. I have sought out conversations with certain people that are boarded, licensed, qualified, and still trying to find people that would be right for me. It is a journey. I believe a lot of therapists out there are really good at what they do, and a lot of therapists out there have absolutely no idea what they're doing, and they're not coming from a place of care, and they're not coming from a place of treating as helping someone as like really helping them. They're just coming from a place of $200, see you next week. So, and that's kind of how the pharmaceutical company runs. It's how the medical board runs. We know that. It's not about solving or creating cures. They make treatment plans, and treatment plans make money, and humans are basically like livestock. So yeah, it is difficult, but I continue to search because I need to help unpack myself better. And the more that I do that, the better I can function. So a lot of stuff has kind of happened in my early 20s, and it's kind of like an idea of all of the stuff that piles up on your desk, and it just keeps compounding and compiling and compiling. More problems happen, and basically at some point we have to just get to a point where we are prepared to acknowledge how high that pile has gotten, and what we're going to do about it. What the hell are we going to do about this? Because no one else is going to be able to unpack it until you are. No one else can do that work for you. I can't do it for someone else. Someone else can't do it for me. And that's kind of how it works. It's not really right to enforce a level of therapy or enforce a level of intervention on someone. I don't really believe in intervention so much. Obviously, if you've got kids and families and you're hurting people, then that's obviously a different kettle of fish. But what I'm saying is you can't lead the horse to water, but the horse has to want to drink. Yeah? Okay, so that's pretty straightforward. It would be cruel to enforce someone. And also they've got to come to a point of realization where they're actually ready within themselves to actually face themselves and do the work. And it would be absolutely devastating if you've gone through this journey and you've finally gotten to a point where you're ready to do the work, you're ready to go and see someone, go and talk to someone, and you find that the therapist is utterly, useless and isn't treating you from a spiritual perspective. Also, for me, it's very difficult because I am that way inclined. I am extrasensory. So I can read energy, psychometry, all of that type of stuff. So especially through touch. As much as they would unpack me, I would also unpack other people around me. And I don't mean to do it. It just kind of happens. A lot of things drop into my consciousness and it's like, whoa, okay, fuck. I know that about this person, but that's very scary to the other party because one of the things that I've learned about life and dating as someone that is this way inclined is it's absolutely terrifying for the other person because I can access information on other people without their permission, whether they like it or not, and whether I like it or not too. Because a lot of the time I just wish I wasn't this way inclined. But living as I do, I'm very reclusive. I don't really drink, I don't smoke, I don't do drugs. And I haven't been out in over 11 years to like a bar or a club or a rave or a nightclub or anything really like that. I'm very internal, and a lot of spiritualists, psychic mediums, people that, are able to, or are that kind of this way inclined, that walk this path, we are very much like that. It's like a tsunami out there. It's raging out there, with energies, with all of this tornado of energy of people. And a lot of the time, in where I live in particular, it's a very dark, heavy energy. It's particularly, and it's all connected to the economy, it's all connected to social media, and there's just so much basically normalized dysfunction on a loop. And so I kind of go through mass amounts of suicidal ideation, euphoria, moments and little bits of feeling that I'm going to be okay, and then moments where I feel like everything's fucked. Sometimes I want to be the hero. Sometimes I want to be the villain. Sometimes I feel like I'm probably more villainous than I am as a hero. I try and speak my truth, and then it's like everyone says, tell me your truth, tell me how you feel. And then you just tell them the truth, and then they absolutely can't handle it and they freak out. And then I have a nihilistic kind of idealization, which is that the world in the way that it's going just cannot continue. And then I kind of feel like the nihilism of it all is like, if it's all going to end anyway, then who really gives a fuck? And then this kind of like spins around in my head, around and around and around and around. And I would probably say, in my opinion, and I don't say this lightly, but potentially maybe I am bipolar. Potentially I am maybe, on some kind of spectrum. And that's something that would make sense. As a kid, I really had a really hard time kind of trying to adapt to the world and understand people. Have really struggled with a lot of relationships with people. And so I think kind of like I turned to my art because that's my place. That's like my place to go where I created a world within a world, or I go into a world that is somewhere kind of separate from reality. And it's crazy because my first book's about to come out shortly. And to me, I really, this book really means a lot to me. And it's kind of like coming full circle because I was that kid at school that used to like hide in the library and very antisocial. Used to like go into the library and at lunchtime and sit and look at picture books and always looking at like illustrations and worlds within worlds, Greek mythology and magic and history and things like that. And it was like this safe place that I could go to. And intuitively, I always kind of thought and knew, I don't know, like I just knew I had something. And as egotistical as that might sound, I don't know if it's egotistical, but I just knew that one day I would be making a book for someone else. If it's like kind of like paying it forward a little bit, I guess, kind of like someone else out there did this for me. They made a safe place for me in my private inner world, and then at some point I do it for someone else. And maybe my books will be out there in the ether. And I have mentioned before that ideas are the only thing that lives on in this world. And although I don't think I'm going to be a dad or a parent as much as I kind of would love to be, I have a fascination with family archetypes, particularly like the father, because I think somewhere inside of me, I've got like a leader. I have an alpha, I have a provider, I have a carer in me, and I have all this love to give, and I don't know where to pour it, or I don't really necessarily have a place to channel that. And I have a lot of resentment and anger towards that by default. And it's strange that people don't really bring this up a lot around me. Maybe they're too scared of my reaction. But if you have figured out something about me that I've never mentioned before, then maybe leave it in the comments. I want to know. Maybe you know. Because it haunts me. And yeah, it's very, very, very difficult. And it's hard because I don't think it's going to happen for me. But at the same time, it's like I have to give my love to something. I have to pour my passion and energy into something, because procreation isn't just like, it's a replication. And I feel like I've acquired a lot of knowledge and archaic knowledge as well, and a lot of knowledge that I would never ever share on this channel or this platform. I'm very, very aware that this is a public platform, but and just life skills, that I feel that I could pass on. So hopefully one day I'll find my place, and I'll find a part of me and a time space where I'm ready, and maybe the planets will align, and I'll meet my partner, and I will create a place where I feel needed and a place where I feel valued. And that's ultimately what I guess everyone kind of wants, don't we? Like we all want that unit. Despite knowing from a very young age that I wasn't going to get that in my own family. I wanted a shot at kind of recreating it for myself and then doing it right, fixing up the mistakes that were made before me to make it a better place. But now I don't know. So yeah, I'm just being vulnerable and I'm just being reflective. Maybe you relate to this. Maybe you don't. And that's okay too. Today I'm going to talk about a little bit about, just kind of where I'm at right now. So one of the things that I've learned about myself a lot over the past couple of years, as I've kind of decided that, this is the journey that I want to go on and be an artist and make art and trying to find ways to support myself. First of all, that's really difficult because you're going to be extorted and exploited at every turn by companies. And whether you're an artist and you're making musical tunes that will end up in a Gillette ad for razor blades, or whether it's going to be taken into a KFC ad, or you work for some psychopathic corporation that owns your ideas and everything that you create and think and feel is basically for the company to make money. I could do a whole video on why artists get fucked over at every single turn. And having gone through the gallery merry-go-round in my 20s and being burned terribly. By the way, if you don't know, I'm going to call it out right now. So it's kind of funny that it's so overtly out of whack, yet no one seems to talk about it, which is another thing that really upsets me and frustrates me and really confuses me a lot of the time, is that there are things that are clearly wrong or unfair and unjust, but yet no one ever talks about it. One of them being is that if you are an artist and you're with a gallery, the gallery will take your work on. They'll probably bind you to them so you can't be with anyone else or have any representation other than them. Then you'll hand over a piece of artwork that you've created to basically a perfect stranger that is seeing you as a meal ticket. They weren't present in the production of it. They weren't present in the making of it. And then you hand over this thing that you've made from your heart with your own ideas, however long that took or whatever effort it took. By the way, if you're a really good artist, you're going to be a workhorse. Okay, there's no way around that. You will be a workhorse. There will be sacrifice. Say if you're playing a guitar and you're learning how to play a guitar, say like all of the hundreds of thousands of hours that go into honing in on your craft, defining your skill set, that time and energy can't go into other things at one time. So you hand this thing over to someone that doesn't really usually doesn't give a fuck about you, and then they have complete control over it. They can decide whether your artwork is right at the front of the gallery and in the shop window, or they can decide that your work is right down the back of their gallery, right near where the toilet is. And then if your work does sell, they get 50% of the sale price. So say, for example, your painting was, say if the expression of your work is $4,000, they get $2,000 out of that. Then you get taxed on your $2,000, and the shipping fees and the delivery fees of the painting will also come out of that cut as well from you, and you'll be left with probably less than $800. So, or even less. I mean, also with books as well, as I've learnt, when you see a book in a bookshop, just letting you know, and you may not know this, but generally speaking, the writer gets less than 10% of the sale price per unit. So when I say unit, I mean per book. So that's pretty out of whack, considering that the company probably had the book made in a third world country to keep labor costs down as they do, which, by the way, that's kind of how it works. And then, they basically have the distribution rights of your work, and you may be locked in a contract that a shitty contract, like a shitty marriage that you feel like you can't get out of. And they'll also sign you in for the next few years. So any books that you create in the future will also be a viable, sustainable option for them to basically keep like milking you for more money. And it's a shameful, it's disgusting, but that's how this works. And then you've got social media as well, which is also, isn't it just it's just a beast. I wouldn't meet one person in my life where I'd come to them and say, "Hey, how are you finding social media?" And they would be like, no. Sometimes it's really good, and sometimes most of the time it's terrible. Because it's not enough just to come up with a really good idea and just execute that and do the work of making that idea and bringing it and cultivating it into fruition. You have to also think about how you're going to sell it. You've got to think about how you're going to market that. You've got to think about how people are going to learn about that. And that's what Instagram is. That's what YouTube is. It's a market for attention. Everything that we do is for view counts. And that amount of view count translates into more people watching it, and that translates into more potential sale. And sales for me has just been like this kind of dirty word that I've had to kind of struggle with getting my head around, is that I don't like the idea of sitting in a meeting and talking about sales. To me, it's like I'd rather be tortured and cut my fingers with knives or something. It's that bad, because it's so the opposite of what I do, and thinking like that is the thing that kills my art. It kills my creativity. And it's paralyzing. But if I don't do it, then, like that's the cycle. I mean, should artists get paid? Well, I mean, the question kind of answers itself. How is art going to be made if the artist isn't paid? So it's this kind of vicious circle. And it's interesting. So I guess this chat is kind of just like a bit of a diary, or a little bit of me opening up myself to, in a podcast and sharing a lot of the thoughts that I have, a lot of the struggles that I have, although I don't share all of it. This is just a little sneak peek, but, being a bit of a deep thinker, it's really tricky. And something that really means nothing to someone else, I can lay in bed at night and just like play it over and over and over in my head and try and understand it. And one of the things that I've learned is that I need to close the feedback loop. So I need closure in a conversation. I need to know where the other person is in relation to where they are to me. Because if the feedback loop isn't closed, my brain goes into overdrive. And that's why ghosting is very, very dangerous to people's well-being, because, or just avoid, like, just completely shutting down on someone. And I understand I shut down quite a lot. I've gotten down now to probably crying in the shower once a week now, where it used to be me just kind of sitting in the bath and staring at the bath plug for like an hour, on a weekly basis. But yeah, it's tricky, because when the feedback loop isn't closed, we can't close it. And then we have to kind of close it on the other person's behalf. And the other person's usually completely unaware of it. That's why people that lack self-awareness make me feel completely unsafe. And that's the thing that I look for most with people, is their level of how they impact others, and are they kind, and are they aware of the damage that we can do to each other, and without even realizing that we do it. So if you're spending time with someone and you're dating someone and you don't think it's going to work, rather than just like avoiding them and deflecting them and, pretending they don't exist, just tell them. Just tell them. Just tell that friend, tell that partner, tell that lover, this is where I'm at. And And you don't have to be a bastard about it. You can do it in a really like loving way, because and it will hurt like hell, but at least the other party knows where they stand with you, and that can help them move forward too. So just say like, I think you're a great guy. I think you're a great girl, whatever. But I just don't think this is a fit. And that's okay. And I wish you well. And thank you so much for your time and your courtesy and the energy that you've spent with me, and vice versa. But I have to be honest with you. And as I'm learning, honesty is the most important thing. And if you're a people pleaser, then you're in big, big trouble, because I had a good analogy the other day brought up to me about like people pleasing, or knowing that something's wrong, but yet choosing to not have that conversation with someone. And then resentment starts to build up, and generally it'll kind of like be a monster. Like the monster is that all these little micro aggressions, all these little micro tears start happening, and they all build up and compile, and then the monster kind of, eats the relationship and then it's over and it kind of explodes, rather than just handling things as they come up on the spot and just dealing with them directly. But that can be tricky, because we can't like go into over therapy mode, which is where we're analyzing everything, and we can't go into, just avoiding it. So it's kind of like, you think of it this way, putting off truth in your life is that anything that isn't, so double Sag talking here now. So I'm all about truth. Yeah. So if you're, in that astrological realm, then you would understand what I'm talking about. So it would be like me cutting up a vegetable on a chopping block, and I just keep nicking myself when I'm cutting the vegetable. I'm cutting the vegetable up to put it in the pot to boil, whatever it is, and I just kind of cut a little bit in between my finger, and then I keep cutting, and then the next week I come back and I cut some more, and I kind of keep cutting and cutting and cutting. And eventually you look down at your hand and you're like, fuck, my finger's nearly cut off. And why did I do that to myself? Why did I put myself around someone like that? Or why didn't I just tell the truth? And why did I partake in something that eventually is going to come back and hurt me? Because avoidance is not a strategy for life. Avoidance, like putting something off for a period of time, may work for a short period of time. But in terms of a relationship, or in terms of really anything, it's like it's running on borrowed time, because at some point it's going to build up and manifest itself in really destructive ways. And that's when you've got like, your fingers missing kind of thing. And I've noticed a lot of relationship dynamics operating on a very, very low level, very adolescent level, very babyish level, kind of like puppy fat, baby fat, very juvenile, and don't have the depth that is required for everyone to behave in a way that is able to sustain a long-term, healthy, functional relationship. Because relationships are complex, because humans are complex. We are very complex creatures. And I think a lot of the time when we start to date people, we're so concerned about them receiving us that we almost kind of like do a tag team and put on this character that was like, oh, I'm going in the room now and I'll swap into a character for the other person so that they like me. And then after all, like, I don't like this person that I've created to be around this person, or I don't like the person that I've become anymore. Why do I do this? Or you're the yes man, where you say yes to, okay, yeah, sure. you're agreeable to everything, and then you get home later at night and you're like, oh fuck, I hate that. I really wish I didn't say that. Why did I say that? That's a lot of people. And if you were a fly on the wall in a lot of these like relationships and marriages, I think that we would be quite shocked to find that a lot of the internal world of their relationship is like completely different to the external projection that they put forth. Much like social media, everyone's putting forth the best part of them that they think will be received best by others, but it's an avatar. It's not really a true depiction of self. And that being said, I've gotten, I'm not shocked because I know that it's true, but it was a lot for me to process because I really avoided social media for a long time. I don't even have a personal Facebook account. And I didn't have an Instagram. By the way, I think Instagram's absolutely on its way out. I think we're all kind of waiting for the next thing to come through. And I think it will at some point. It has to, but I remember looking at Instagram for the first time and I was about to publish my tarot card deck, which I just spent 3 years working on, and was just like completely overwhelmed. Like, what the fuck is this shit? Like, I've got to do these squares and all these little posts, and it's a full-time business running a social media presence because everything's getting compiled. Like, there's so many new posts coming in, yours just gets pushed down. And I've always known in like business, it's like find a group and find something that they want and then convince them that they need it. You know, that's kind of the model that most sale operations run at. And it was like just, oh my God, like it was just way, way, way too much for me. And so I started putting my artwork up and my tarot card deck images, and I got a little bit of traction, but it wasn't until I started putting like pictures of myself on there that I realized people don't just want to consume the art that I make or the work that I make. They want to consume you. They want to eat you. They want to gobble you up, so to speak. And it's really interesting because you can spend hours, weeks, months working on something, and then a picture of yourself with your shirt off, or, you know, being at the beach, or something that's kind of more sexualized gets so much more attention. And it makes me sad, and it's fucked. But that's human nature, I guess. We are primal. We're programmed to go towards aesthetics, and in a world where a certain aesthetic, if you're not presenting yourself in a certain aesthetical way that is likable to that culture, then you don't get a shot. And that's fucked. And that is what it is. And that also, there's a pecking order to that as well. Like, obviously it goes into race, it goes into all different aspects, but that's the truth. That the majority of human consciousness is operating at the lowest common denominator at all times. And I was told the average intelligence of a human being on this planet as a grown adult is no more than 13 to 14 years of age. So it's kind of like babies having babies kind of thing. But yeah, anyway, I want to say in this podcast as well that just because someone looks like they seem well put together, they could be completely at rock bottom. They're just really good at hiding it. You know, we don't know someone else's life. You don't know where they've come from or what's happened to them. So it's always in our best interest to project a level of empathy and be humble and be kind. Now, I've made some videos where I was talking about star signs, like I was roasting the signs. These videos were just kind of like entertainment. They were extreme videos, and they were done in good jest, in goodwill. They were done as a kind of hard hitting go at, the sign. And it wasn't my intention to, or is not my intention to hurt anyone. That's not what I'm doing this for. It's just simply observation from my life that I share, that hopefully people receive and can have a little bit of a laugh at and go, yeah, that's me sometimes. Yeah, I do that. Some of the comments and some of the hate mail that I get in from people that watch my videos are so disturbing and so, well, first of all, guys, watch the spelling if you're going to come for me. But yeah, it's unbelievable. So I don't know where everyone's level of reality is at, but I think it's starting to break down. But that's another video for another time and another place, I guess. The breaking down of society, the breaking down of reality, the breaking down of one of the Hermetic principles, which is one of the biggest principles of all, which is the law of identity. And something that I've noticed with humans as we're kind of in this age of Aquarius epoch is that the pendulum is starting to really swing really far in a direction that is now looking to be set in motion, where it's like we're talking end times now. Because if we can't, how do I word this? Basically, humans try to reverse nature. We like to create false gods, and we like to plunder and take and take and take and take and use Mother Earth and play with Mother Nature, and I don't care whatever capacity it's through, whether it is reverse engineering, creating AI, tampering with cells, tampering with foods, I went into a shop the other day and there was a yellow watermelon. Why do we need a yellow watermelon? Humans, it's the ego part of us that is setting in motion the end times and developing technologies that really, for the most part, are completely an act against nature, an act against Mother Nature. And we keep forgetting, I don't think humans get it. We are merely visitors here. The average human lifespan in the cosmos, in the universe, and on this planet is not even a microsecond. We're nothing. We're here and we're gone. But humans tend to have this thing where we create these rules and laws and we enforce them on each other. And then we create these ways of being through mind control. And I will share a little bit with you in this podcast. I will be doing a video called The Dark Age of Aquarius. But we are going to see, and we are already starting to see, a complete, very underhanded, it's kind of like the snakes are under the carpet, like they're starting to move, attack on the divine feminine. We're going to start to see an attack and an erosion on the womb. And I believe that there are technologies that are in play now where through Asian technology that is still being developed, where scientists are now starting to create basically a womb in like a test shell of a womb, so babies can be kind of incubated. And we know here in the Western world that 50% of the fertility rate of men's sperm has already dropped 50% in the last 50 years, in the last decade. So by default, even if things continue as they are now, then procreation in the Western world is completely going to drop. And now 1 in 5 babies are now conceived through IVF. And I heard a comment the other day which really shook me. I was in a coffee shop and I heard a woman talk about her pregnancy, and the other lady asked her, how did you get pregnant? And to me, that sounded absolutely ridiculous. Like, how the fuck do you think someone would get pregnant? The natural way. They would fuck and have a baby. But it's almost kind of trickling into the collective now where babies can't be conceived naturally due to radiology or radiation or all the chemicals that we eat, the things in our food, everything that's going on is lowering the cell count in the men. So it's like we're kind of becoming more and more dependent on technology. And that's basically going to turn us into this kind of infantile invalid state where humans really do nothing. They're not going out and cooking their food on a fire. They're not connected to nature at all. And everything's done via a machine or via AI. And there's just no celebration or recognition to traditions, customs, ancestors, Mother Earth, the land, the water that you drink. Everything is commodified, commercialized, and consumed. Even each other. Even each other. To such a point that the connection of each other is just breaking down and completely and utterly collapsing. And as we start to fuck around with the law of identity, then we start to basically break down the laws of nature. And this is something that really scares me, because it's not like it's going to be reversed anytime soon. Like, that's the problem that we have with collective consciousness. And I've discovered the higher that I go, the further it is away from others, but the harder it is to come back down from that. Unless there's some kind of free fall where the internet gets dropped, everything gets cut, we've got to kind of go back to some kind of back to some kind of apocalyptic way of living, which I think in the collective, I think a lot of people kind of like shows like The Walking Dead. They like shows like, apocalyptic kind of like shows, like video games and Telltale games like that, or what's that one that came out recently that's doing quite well? It's the one with Pedro in it from The Mandalorian, The Last of Us, I think it's called. I think secretly we're so over all of this technological bullshit and having to be on this kind of hamster on a wheel, going to work, coming home, going to work, coming home, that if we secretly want it all to collapse. My inner anarchist is kind of like, if it all collapses tomorrow, then, and if I survive the fallout, then does that mean that it'll just be like the law of the gun and all of this shit, like getting in debt from a bank and then working for the rest of your life to pay off a house, and by the time you pay it off, even if you can, which no one usually does these days, you'll be too old and you'll be dead and kind of chewed up and spit out of the system. Is that if all of that collapses and money doesn't mean anything, then it will only force our hand to go back to a world where we have to care for each other, and or we don't, or we all just kind of form groups and gangs, and yeah. Much to consider. I often thought about even creating my own coven, my own group of witches, or my own group of people where we get together and we talk about the occult and we practice this, these ancient customs. But as I've come to understand from being in other groups, it's kind of human nature that the witches become bitches. And then that group breaks down and then that forms another group. And, it's kind of human nature. So I don't know. I just think humans are fucked. And a lot of the time, a big source of my suffering and struggle really just comes from trying to understand humans, understand people, why they do what they do when it doesn't make any sense, and trying to make sense of a nonsensical world. I think you probably get what I mean. Like, oh, fuck. Yeah, it is what it is. It is what it is. But yeah, practice kindness, get back to nature, find your core values, get back to your simplicity, and just keep going. I think that's the message that has kind of come through today. I know this has been like a little bit all over the place, but you know, it's kind of is what it is. I don't ever have like scripts or anything. I just kind of talk, and this is what I feel in the moment. This is what's going on in my head. And I kind of open up a window and you can kind of peek in a little bit. So a lot of you, I can't be the only one out there that thinks like this. Like, I can't. But yeah. Anyway, I'll leave it here. Lots of love to you, and thank you so much for listening. Hit the subscribe button if you're interested, or share this video around. It means a lot to me, and it validates me in a way where it's like, okay, well then people want to listen to this and they want to hear me share my thoughts on things. And if you've got a question that you want to ask me the question. I'm open to it. If there's a topic that you want me to tackle, let's go there. I'll go there. I'll do it. I don't care. Let's go. Adventurous spirit. All right. Lots of love, and I'll see you in the next podcast. I hope you're having a great night or a day. Be well. Okay. Bye. Bye.